Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. And as always, I am your host, Jeremiah, and we are here for a lovely Valentine's Day episode of the GSMC football podcast. It is episode 176, and we are almost up there. We got like 15 more. We got 25 more to 200. So, it is Valentine's Day, but, there was a little bit of a breakup yesterday in the NFL. And that was the New York Giants releasing Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz, came out, he was signed as a undrafted free agent, and when his first couple years in the league, he just took the NFL world by storm. He did. He took the NFL world by storm by the salsa dance. He was one of the top receivers in the league, and then injuries started to pile on, and he just wasn't the same player. He couldn't get on the field, and releasing Victor Cruz frees up $7.5 million in cap space. That wasn't the only player that was released yesterday. Running back Rashad Jennings was also let go yesterday, and cutting him frees up $2.5 million in cap space. So they save $10 million in cap space by releasing these two guys. And Rashad Jennings, I'm not surprised one bit. Victor Cruz, I'm not surprised one bit. He did struggle last season. He had 39 receptions. That was the fifth fewest among 53 NFL wide receivers to play 700 snaps. His 9.4 cap hit for 2017 would have been the 15th highest among all receivers. So it's not surprised there. He just wasn't one of those guys that just wasn't as productive, and with Sterling Shepard pretty much being molded into that number 2 guy, they pretty much kind of sealed the deal of Victor Cruz sealing and his future there in New York. But is Victor Cruz, is he still a guy that will play next year? Is he still a guy that's going to be signed? I can really see it. I can definitely see a team take a chance on him. I can definitely see I think it'll be fun to see New England take a chance on Victor Cruz and turn him into a superstar again. I can see a variety of teams take a chance on Victor Cruz. I don't see him signing as a starter. If a team just signs Victor Cruz to be a starter, then they're not going to get anything back from him. But I do think a team will take a chance on him because he's not going to cost a lot of money. He's going to come fairly cheap. And if he does happen to pretty much outplay his contract, then, who knows? Maybe Victor Cruz will get another big-time contract. But I don't know. I think that's kind of unrealistic to happen at this point in his career. Victor Cruz is 30 years old. He's 2.5 years removed from a major knee surgery. He just wasn't the same guy. And, when Victor Cruz came onto the scene, he was looked at as one of the... He looked like he was on track to be one of the top receivers in the NFL. In his first year starting in 2011, he had 1,536 yards. That was his rookie year. Because the year before that, prior, he was on the practice squad. So technically, unofficially, 2011 was his rookie year. That was the year when the Giants won the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. And then the year after that, he didn't have as much yards, but he did go over 1,000. And he had 10 touchdowns. And after that, he had 998. And then he only missed 2 games that year. And then 2014 is when the injury started to happen. He had that major knee surgery there, and then he just couldn't stay on the field. And 2016, last year, he just, his numbers really dipped. They really dipped. But I can't see a team take a chance on him. I really can. And Victor Cruz released a statement yesterday on his Instagram. This is what he said. He posted a picture of himself with the Super Bowl trophy, the Vince Lombardi trophy, and on the caption of the photograph on Victor Cruz's Instagram page, it read, "No long paragraph for all to read. Just simply thank you to the New York Giants organization and to the Mizzy fans that have watched me grow up in front of their eyes. Thank you." And he also said in the statement to NFL.com, this is what he said. Quote, "I think I have a lot of good football left ahead of me. I think there is still a lot of miles left on this body. I'll definitely be searching and looking for work as time comes." You know, Victor Cruz is one of the main reasons why Eli Manning was successful in the early part of the decade. You know, the fact that he honestly, he's probably one of the top undrafted free agents in the NFL, and one of them, well, definitely in my eyes. But he is currently 10th on the franchise all-time receiving yards list, 17 in touchdowns. I feel like he will get back. I feel like he will get a job. I just don't think he will get back to that elite level. And I kind of think we kind of seen him in his prime already. I just feel like he would never get back to that level. But you know, when he was good, he was probably one of the most exciting players to watch. You know, he wasn't that prototypical diva receiver. He's still not a diva receiver. He's not Odell Beckham. He's a high character guy, and I do think the fact that his high character is the reason why teams will take a chance on him, because high character guys are hard to come by now, especially at the receiver position. Especially. Well, Victor Cruz wasn't the only guy. I did say that Rashad Jennings was cut as well, and Victor Cruz, he struggled to get on the field. He just struggled to get back to the same player after going back-to-back dozen-yard seasons in 2011, 2012. Rashad Jennings was among the worst running backs, the last year. He was. Rashad Jennings had the fewest yards per rush in 2016. He actually had his second to last. Todd Gurley had 3.2. Rashad Jennings had 3.3. So he didn't have it. Well, Rashad Jennings averaged 3.3 yards on 181 rushes last season. That's the second worst of any player with at least 150 rushes. And Rashad Jennings, he's 31 years old. He's spent 3 years with the Giants. I feel like they're done. He actually did have a career high in 2015 with 863 yards, but he couldn't do a whole lot more for him. I think with the emergence of Paul Perkins last year really did kind of helped the Giants make this decision. I actually like Paul Perkins. I think he's going to be the starter. I kept saying that, especially on the fantasy show. But Rashad Jennings, he didn't really live up to what the Giants thought they were getting. When they signed him as a free agent in 2014, he only averaged 3.8 yards a carry. He only played in 11 games. 639 yards. So, he didn't really do a whole lot then. 2015, he actually had an okay year. He had 863 yards, which is his career high. He averaged 4.4, which that's his second. So, he just didn't live up to what the Giants were looking for in a running back. And I do think that the running back position is very key to the Giants' success heading to next year. They just couldn't have a consistent running game, and I do think that's something that they need to build for them to get back into playoff contention. I do think this team is talented. They were in the playoffs last year. I do think Sterling Shepard's going to emerge. He's going to improve upon his rookie year. I think he's set to be the number 2 guy. And, Eli Manning's not getting any younger, so they're going to have to build some guys. They're going to have to bring in some guys in to help compete right now. Because Eli Manning, I think we keep forgetting that, he's in his mid-30s. He's getting older. He's not getting younger. I think Eli Manning wants another Super Bowl. I think he wants to, beat his brother there with another Super Bowl ring. So I do think that Giants will work on bringing more offensive playmakers. I do think Paul Perkins is a guy that's going to be really good next year. And as for Rashad Jennings, I don't know if I think if a team were to take a chance on him, I think it'll be for depth. I think he can be a player that can start. If a running back goes down, he can definitely be one of those guys that can step in. He can be a really good running back for depth. He's been known to be a really good backup running back, and I do think that's what he is. And I do think he still has a shot to do that kind of role, but he is 31, so I don't see a team taking a chance on him due to his age. As for Victor Cruz, I do think that someone will take a chance on him, but it'll be on a fairly cheap deal. He is 30 years old, so he is not getting any younger as well. He is coming off major injuries. I think the Patriots should take a chance on him. I think that would be awesome because I think Tom Brady can make Victor Cruz into a star again. But who knows? That might not even happen. But Victor Cruz, I do think he still maybe has a little bit left, but I just don't think he can ever. I don't think he's going to get back to that elite level we saw when he burst onto the scene. But it's going to be interesting what the Giants do this offseason with their free agents. They got Jason Pierre-Paul that I think they should bring back, but Jason Pierre-Paul wants a bigger contract. And then it's just amazing it's just interesting what the Giants will do this offseason due to, them wanting to get back into the playoffs. And, Eli Manning's not getting any younger, so I do think they might have to start thinking of getting a quarterback in there, a young quarterback, to sit behind Eli for a couple years. Well, those are my thoughts on the Giants, Victor Cruz, Rashad Jennings. When I get back, I'm going to talk about Aldon Smith. He's back in the news. He's actually back into some legal issues here. I'm going to discuss what's going on with Aldon Smith in the Bay Area. And I'm also going to talk about former Alabama linebacker Reuben Foster and what he plans to do for the Combine. I will discuss all that when I get back to the Going to Me Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Well, the Oakland Raiders had a really good season. They went to the playoffs for the first time since 2002. They looked like they were poised to make a Super Bowl run until Derek Carr got hurt. But who knows? Maybe if Derek Carr would have stayed healthy, this team would have gave Patriots a run for their money here, and we probably wouldn't even be talking about the Patriots. But who knows? Who knows what would have happened? I actually still think that the Patriots would have came. I still think the Patriots would have won the AFC, but I think they would have had more competition with the Raiders fully healthy and fully equipped. But a player that didn't play for the Raiders this year was Aldon Smith. He was suspended for the entire year. And Aldon Smith still seems like he can't really stay out of trouble. Well, technically, he's not really in trouble. He's actually cooperating with the San Francisco police in an investigation that occurred over the past weekend. And Aldon Smith is reported under investigation for a domestic violence incident. TMZ Sports reported Monday that police in San Francisco, where Aldon Smith actually owns a home, were called Saturday morning in response to an incident at a house there, which apparently happens to be Aldon Smith's house. According to the USA Today, there's been no arrests made, no charges filed. Smith and the woman who filed the complaint are both cooperating with this investigation. Aldon Smith, he still can't technically shake off these legal troubles here. And Officer Grace Gapitan told ESPN that Aldon Smith is cooperating with the San Francisco Police Department. The report was taken over the weekend, and he was mentioned in the report. The Raiders did not comment on the matter because, they are actually forbidden from having any contact from Smith under the suspension rules, which he's been suspended since November 2015. And Aldon Smith has been involved in several incidents that included arrests and substance abuse, which led to his suspension. And, with Aldon Smith being investigated for this domestic violence incident here, he hasn't been arrested, so he there's no saying that he actually did it, but I'm just saying, he's been in this report. So that's all I would say. But all I will say is what the Raiders could do with Aldon Smith if they kind of really want it. Do you think the Raiders should hold on to Aldon Smith if he continues to get into these legal incidents? Aldon Smith, he made news last year for a video of Periscope, and then apparently it appeared that Aldon Smith was on the video smoking marijuana, and his face wasn't in it, but there was a man on the video that was doing this action of smoking, marijuana, and at the end of the video, he said, at least I didn't put Aldon Smith, which is his name, and basically he was saying, good thing I put Aldon Smith as the video caption. So, Aldon Smith has been involved in a lot of legal incidents. That's the reason why he was cut from the San Francisco 49ers. When Aldon Smith got drafted in 2011, he was arrested. I think he was arrested about 5 times since 2011. This is between 2011 and 2015 when he was with the Niners. He just couldn't stay out of trouble. He had their suspicions of drinking and driving. So if I'm the Raiders and you look like you have a good team on your hands, and Aldon Smith is a very productive player when he is fully active, when he has his mindset. He had 47.5 sacks with the 49ers in 59 games. He looked like he was about to be one of the top pass rushers in the game. he looked like he was on his way to pretty much being the cornerstone of the 49ers defense for years to come. But that hasn't been any way true. He just can't stay out of trouble. So if I'm Mark Davis or Reggie McKenzie, should we really hold on to Aldon Smith here? Is he really worth the headache? Jack Del Rio, the Raiders head coach, said this past season that he was a little disappointed after the league decided they declined to reinstate Smith. And Mark Davis actually has a strong stance against domestic violence, saying the team has a zero-tolerance policy. And in case you don't know, Raiders Hall of Fame receiver Frere Belkanoff, he actually lost his daughter Tracy in 1990 when she was unfortunately murdered by an ex-boyfriend. And the Raiders have been really good supporters of Belkanoff's mission to provide a home for women in need, and Davis even presented Belkanoff with a check of $50,000 in 2015. So, that is a way that the Raiders have taken action on the stance. And if somehow Aldon Smith is involved in this, you brought him in to be you brought him in to be a good player in defense. So if you're the Raiders, do you really want to hold on to a guy that continues to get in trouble, gets reported on a lot of police incidents? Is he really worth it? Because it looks like you guys have a really good locker room in your hands. And do you think that Aldon Smith will help? And I think the Raiders have a decision to make soon. And even if Aldon Smith doesn't come back, even if the NFL doesn't reinstate Aldon Smith, I think the Raiders will be just fine with or without him, honestly. That's just me. But, watching him with the 49ers, it's a shame how, he just really can't, keep his mind on track. And he hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been accused of this incident over the weekend. And I'm not trying to bash Aldon Smith here. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just simply, reporting what is out there. And I really do think Aldon Smith should get help. But honestly, it remains to be seen what the Raiders, if they decide anything to do. It'll be interesting to see. Well, as for one of the top defensive players in this year's draft, he's at Reuben Foster of Alabama, who was one of the top defensive prospects this year. He's looked at as a top 3 prospect. He actually has surgery and is going to miss NFL Combine. Yes, he underwent surgery on his right rotator cuff, and he's going to miss a lot of the drills at the Combine. So he's pretty much not going to compete in most of the drills. And it's a shame because, Reuben Foster was looked upon as probably the next Ray Lewis in this draft. Like, he was one of those can't-miss prospects. Like, he was probably the Patrick Willis of this draft. And there's a lot of teams that need an inside linebacker. For example, I'm pretty sure the Browns can use an inside linebacker, but they're not going to get him at 1. The Niners can definitely use a inside linebacker. The Bears can use an inside linebacker. So, there's a lot of teams that won't get to see what Alabama, what Reuben Foster could do. And I don't know if this would actually drop his draft stock. I actually think he's still a top 10 prospect. I think he's going to go in the top 10. I just think his film alone will be enough for scouts to see. So, he had 115 tackles on one of college football's top defenses of all time. One of the top defenses. And I just think he has enough on film to say to scouts that this is a can't miss prospect, and I do expect him to go in the top 5. I think he might go to. I think I can see him going to Jacksonville. I can see him going to Chicago. I can see him going to the Tennessee Titans, but I think the Titans might get a receiver there. So it remains to be seen on how teams evaluate Reuben Foster pretty much before the draft. And Jared Davis out of Florida, who's also linebacker, is actually out with the ankle injury. It's hampered him throughout his senior season. So he's kind of like Foster right now, who would kind of just attend the combine and go through the interview. So the interview process is huge. It's going to be really huge for Reuben Foster. But it remains to be seen what NFL teams think of Reuben Foster, because I still think this is a can't miss prospect. I think he is the Patrick Willis of this draft, and he's going to make an impact day one for any team that takes a chance on him. Well, I'm going to take my last break, and when I come back, LaShawn McCoy is very upset. I'm going to tell you why he is upset when I get back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Well, Pro Football Focus came out with their top 101 players yesterday. And how they grade these players is they're verified by the Pro Coach Network and their 400 years of combined NFL and college coaching experience. So this is according to the site Pro Football Focus, and that's how they evaluate the top players. And that's how they evaluate every player, so to speak. So Pro Football Focus came out with their top 101 players of the 2016 NFL season yesterday. And there was one player in particular who had a real good year, who was not happy that he was left off this list. LaShawn McCoy took to Twitter. He took to Twitter saying, "At BFF, you guys suck. A bunch of nerds who never played a lick of football in your whole life." That is what LaShawn McCoy wrote on Twitter. And the fact that he's not even on the list is kind of baffling. This is how the running backs were listed in Pro Football Focus top 101 rankings. Ezekiel Elliott was ranked at 22. He was one of the top running backs. He's only rookie, so it's no surprise there. You got David Johnson at 23, one of the most complete backs in the league, who had a real good year until we got hurt at the last game of the year. Le'Veon Bell at 27, who I think is the best running back in the NFL. Jay Ajayi at 31, who had a breakout year. And Jordan Howard at 75, who had a pretty solid year, probably a very underrated year for a bad Chicago Bears team. But I honestly think Shady has a right to be upset. He finished the year over 1,600 total yards, 14 touchdowns. He was definitely the focal point of Buffalo's offense. He had big numbers. He averaged 5.4 yards a carry. That's actually a career high. And he did all this despite a hamstring injury that kept him out of one game. I honestly think he should be on this list. I just don't know why Pro Football Focus left LaShawn McCoy on this list. He was one of the top running backs in the game last year. He was one of the top. Maybe it was the team that he was on. Maybe it was because of the circus that the Buffalo Bills were being run as last year. You know, the drama of Rex Ryan. And maybe, I don't know why that has to do with LaShawn McCoy, but he definitely had a very good year. He wasn't talked about a lot. He didn't get as much publicity as he did in Philadelphia. When I look at LaShawn McCoy's career numbers, 2013 was his best year ever. And when I look at this year, I think this is probably the best year he's had with the Buffalo Bills. This is the year that they thought. He had the second most touchdowns of his career. He had the best year in rush per yards. How do you leave him out? How do you leave? He played with a hamstring injury that slowed him down and still was among the best. I don't know how you leave him out. I don't know how you leave him out at all. But getting back to this Pro Football Focus list, I'm going to tell you the top 10. Because if I tell you the whole thing, that's another show in itself. So I'm going to tell you the guys that end up in the top 10. So at number 1, it's really no surprise, Tom Brady. After being ranked 14, he ends up at the top of the list for 2016. Aaron Donald of the LA Rams ends up at number 2, one of the best defensive players in the game. And he's been one of the under the radar players because of the team he's on. And I do think that the fact that he's in LA, he would get a little bit more notoriety there, a little more kind of recognition. Got Aaron Rodgers at number 3. He was unranked 2015. Yeah, Khalil Mack at 4. He was ranked number 6 last year. Matt Ryan at 5, unranked 2015. Julio Jones at 6, ranked number 9 2015. Marshall Yanda, guard for the Baltimore Ravens, ends up at number 7 after being ranked number 16. He's been one of the best guards this year. London Collins, who was a defensive player of the year candidate, ends up at number 8. Brandon Graham ends up at number 9 from the Philadelphia Eagles. And at 10, Eric Weddle rounds out the top 10 of the Pro Football Focus list. And there are some guys that just were outside the top 10. You got guys like Bobby Wagner. You got Mike Evans. You got Von Miller. You got Cameron Jordan. Alex Matt, Trent Williams. Aqib Talib, Chris Harris. So, Antonio Brown's at number 21. So, it's a pretty good, I think it's a pretty good top 10. You can definitely make an argument of, Von Miller in the top 10. You can make an argument of Antonio Brown in the top 10. The thing I do have a problem with this list is I don't have a problem with Julio Jones being the top ranked receiver here. I actually don't. He had a really good year. I do have a problem with Mike Evans being at number 12 and Antonio Brown at 21. I do have a little bit of a problem with that. I do. And don't get me wrong, Mike Evans is a stud. He's a stud wide receiver. Made some phenomenal plays, but I just think Antonio Brown, I honestly think Antonio Brown is the best receiver in the league. And you cannot, how do you outrank Antonio Brown? How do you outrank him? I don't know how they did this rankings, but don't get me wrong, Mike Evans played, he made some plays this year. He was a major part of the resurgence of Tampa Bay. They look improved, but how do you put him over Antonio Brown? That's the thing that I kind of have to go to. And then the description that they have here is Antonio Brown wasn't quite the force he was a season ago for the Steelers, but that was a problem at the source, not the end of the production line. Yeah, he may not have the same numbers, but still, like, Antonio Brown is a dangerous receiver. No matter who is the quarterback, Antonio Brown is going to make plays. I just have a problem with that. That is absurd to me. That's very absurd. Well, anyways, that's enough about this list. I'm actually going to conclude the show today, but don't get me wrong. I will be back. Don't worry, guys. I will be back tomorrow. Anthony will actually be back here as well. We will talk about any type of news that happens over the next 24 hours. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to the Guns to Me Concepts Football Podcast. I'm Jeremiah, and you guys have a lovely Valentine's Day with your loved ones out there. All right, have a good day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.